he asked and we put together his slideshow, that was one of the songs that I had played because it described his life so fully. The opening verse is as follows. You know, a dream is like a river, ever changing as it flows, and a dreamer's just a vessel that must follow where it goes. Trying to learn from what's behind you and never knowing what's in store makes every and each day a constant battle just to stay between the shores. As a spiritual community, you've been surviving quite a while now without a minister, and hopefully a new one will be here in a few months. But it's uncharted water, and indeed each of you is that vessel navigating the river. And all of you have a dream and a vision about what you want your community to ultimately be, what you want it to share, what you want it to be in the community of Oroville. And to navigate and move forward in that process, collectively, you must climb into a vessel and make decisions that are for the greatest good of all. And that's not easy. It's not an easy task. I'm reminded of the many times that I have made car trips across the United States, navigating territory we've never ever been before. And the first time my family moved from California to Maine, that's only 4,000 miles away, I was not a happy camper. I was only 13 and my parents dragged me kicking and screaming and the whole way that we went. And they were taking me away from my childhood home in Chico, my church, my friends, my schools, everything that I knew in my small world to a far-off place I had never ever seen before and didn't know what was going to happen. On top of all that, they made all the decisions on the trip except for what flavor I got to have of ice cream each day. Maine was a complete and total culture shock. Jeans were dungarees, purses were pocketbooks, and tennis shoes were sneakers. Besides all the strange names for things, I spoke differently and dressed differently, and funny by comparison to the kids in my new high school. And besides all of that, I felt totally alone. I felt like I was in a constant battle trying to move forward. In other words, against the tide. Have any of you ever felt that way before, that you were going upstream instead of down or against the tide? It's easy to have tunnel vision and only see our perspective when we're faced with change or a challenge. We never know exactly how a story or a movie or a book or a real-life situation will unfold and end for each of us. I admire the great adventurers who have taken risks during their life to step into the unknown. You know, like the men who walked on the moon, even though we thought they would come back, there was never insurance that said for sure they would return. They went there without knowing at all if they would make it. And I'll never forget watching Felix Baumgarten jump at 24 miles from space to safely parachute back to Earth. I admire his stepping out into the unknown, but that doesn't really mean that I want to try it. Heck, I jumped out of a plane not too far from here at 12,000 feet in tandem one time, and it was exhilarating, but I'm certainly not going to jump at 24 miles. The thought of an unknown future can be terrifying. It's the sort of thing that can keep you up at night bothering you. That's that worry we just talked about. We made like surprise parties, but we don't tend to enjoy life throwing us a surprise. We crave security, stability, clarity. We have a desire to know and control our future. We are uncomfortable in the place of the unknown. The unknown can be scary. We want to know what is coming next and how that will affect our future. We want to be able to plan and be prepared at all times. We don't like being in the dark on any situation. It's the not knowing that can cause us to know stress on a first name basis. We believe that if we know what to expect, that it gives us a certain measure of control over our life and the other people around us. There are so many unknowns. How long will I live? I'm always looking at my lifeline on my hand, wondering just how far it's really going to go. Will I have enough time to do the things that I want to do? The questions of unknown go on and on and on. Do you feel like you are on an unknown destination journey in life? Maybe your unknown destination is the beginning of retirement, or you're in the middle of a transition and the world seems to be falling apart all around you, and you're not really sure how it's all going to work out. And although you're trying your very best in life and to live by faith, you just might be a little worried even about your faith. Jensen Franklin said, worrying doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Worrying can be the biggest enemy of peace and joy in our life in a world where visionaries are praised. I typically feel a bit like comedian Stephen Wright, who said, I'm a peripheral visionary. I can see the future, but only way off to one side. It's just not clear in front of me. Life is filled with unknowns, and that's never going to change in our life as much as we'd rather be. It's like the river. Too many times we stand aside and let the water slip away till what we put off till tomorrow has now become today. So don't you sit upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids and dare to dance the tide. We have to be willing to take chances. We have to jump in that boat and shoot for the rapids so that we can see what is on the other side. More importantly, we must face our fears. There's a story of a man who lived in the town of Ur in Egypt. Ur was a large city. It was situated on the shore of the Euphrates and a river, and it was over 4,000 years ago. According to the National Geographic, it was a bustling port of about 60,000 inhabitants. And at the time, Ur was the center of the wealthiest empire on earth. It was a center of commerce and trade and worship. And the inhabitants were the first people to have their own written language. And they were the first to develop mathematics and to become experts in astronomy. Most of the population there was well-to-do. Most lived in large homes with huge open courtyards and even earthly forms of plumbing to an extent. Now remember, that's 4,000 years ago. There were probably Starbucks on every corner. And now there was once a man by the name of Abe, who lived in the land of Ur. In fact, many archaeologists believe that Abe may have been the one person who taught them about mathematics and astrology. And of all places to be, Ur was the place to be in Abe's day. After all, it was a happening place back in 21 BC. Abe had everything he could ever want in his hometown of Ur. It reminded me of myself. This was home. He was comfortable there. He grew up there. He knew every single shortcut in the town. And when he went to the grocery store, he knew everybody was there, and he'd run into people and they'd greet each other and stand and talk for a few minutes, because remember, clocks weren't in existence then. He was still friends with the kids from his Little League team. He was established in this town, and life was routine, predictable, even easy. And at the age of 75, Abe received a message that he was not expecting. After all, he was getting to retire. He had had a good life, and it was time to step back and chill. But this message was one of those that he absolutely could not ignore. It was God telling Abe to walk away from it all. And the message wasn't only for Abe, it was for his whole entire family and all of his relatives. This story is in Genesis chapter 12. Now, I've been calling him Abe just so you go along with the story, but really his name was Abraham. So here he is at 75 years of age being told, move on. Don't stay there. He didn't have a map. He didn't have GPS, let alone a cell phone. And there wasn't any moving companies to call to say, can you cart me to a place that I don't know? Think about the challenge that Abe must have faced just trying to convince all of his relatives to go with him and that this was a good idea. Abraham didn't even know where he was going. The details were completely unknown, and people had to have watched him leave thinking, oh God, Abraham is nuts. Yet he went anyway. Genesis 12:4 says, no, Abraham did as the Lord had spoken to him. Why would anyone want to leave security for the unknown? One possibility is that while he didn't know where he was headed, he did know parts of the way why he was going and the what would happen as a result. Verses 2 and 3 state, I will make of you a great people, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and in you shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Wow, that's an awesome promise God gave. But I don't think those are the reasons that Abraham really left. After all, what reason would Abraham have had to believe any of those things? He was raised in a pagan culture. We know his father worshipped other gods. And Abraham was raised in a home where idol worship would have been the norm. I believe there was only one reason that Abraham would have believed those promises. Something happened that made believing the familiar and stepping into the unknown all right. Abraham had to have an experience with God that so convinced him that leaving was no barrier whatsoever. One encounter with God can change everything for any of us. Nobody in their right mind would walk away from things Abraham walked away from. Financial security, relatives, immediate family, friends, comfort. For a reason we don't know, Abraham chose to follow God's directions. He was completely convinced that it was the right thing to do. For some reason that was not in the Bible, Abraham must have had a life-altering encounter with God. And because of that experience, he stepped out in faith. He stepped out in faith to the unknown. And all he knew was that God said, go to the land that I will show you. And Abraham stepped into the unknown because he had faith. In his book, Can We Talk to God?, Ernest Holmes tells us, faith is not a dogma, a creed, nor a statement of being. It is a certain mental approach to reality. It is an affirmative approach as opposed to a negative one. It is an agreement as opposed to denial. And Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics tells us faith is your consent. It is saying yes to the outforming of the creative process. You may think this is making faith too simple. It is simple. There is nothing complicated about it. It deals with an inexorable force that is turning on a light. It is simple, but it's not easy. There is a discipline of consciousness required in the commitment to practice the presence constantly. Yet the truth is, faith is saying yes. Faith is your willingness to get into that boat and cruise the river, not knowing what lays ahead. You are divinely guided in every rapid and every curve. When you leave the land you're familiar with, you enter the world of faith and trust. Faith in spirit allows us to walk unafraid into an unknown future. When life seems confusing, when the circumstances seem impossible, the future is unknown. The divine, however, is there. In other words, you have to not only have faith, but trust as well. You have to listen to the small voice within and know you are being guided. Corrie ten Boom was a Dutch Holocaust survivor. After hiding Jews in their home during World War II, she and all the members of her family were interned at Ravensbrück concentration camp. She was the only one that survived. She said, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. Sometimes we find ourselves in places or times where we have no other choice than to trust God. It's in those times that faith has the opportunity to deepen what we have never known before. Even though we don't know what the future holds, we don't have to enter it being afraid. Author John Kavanagh tells of a time in his life when he went to Calcutta to work 3 months at the House of the Dying with Mother Teresa. He went thousands of miles from the United States to find direction in his life. And the first morning he was there, he met Mother Teresa. And she asked him, what can I do for you? And Kavanagh asked her to pray for him. What do you want me to pray for? She asked. He responded, please pray that I have clarity. And she responded very firmly, no, I will not do that. And when asked why, she said, clarity is the last thing you're clinging to. You must let go of it. Kavanagh commented that she always seemed to have the clarity he was longing to have in his life. And Mother Teresa laughed and said, I've never had clarity. What I have always had is trust. So I will pray that you trust God. When we get in that boat of our river ride, we must trust there won't be any leaks in it. We trust that we've got the right equipment to help us get where we're going, and we trust that we will ultimately arrive safe and sound. We surrender and trust God to guide us. Several years ago, I decided it was time for me to take my first rafting trip on the American River up here by Sacramento. And it was my first major rafting trip, and I chose it because it contained number 5 rapids. Can you tell I love roller coasters? 5s are really exciting and dangerous. And our guide explained to us that we would be entering a position within the first couple of miles on the river of our first set of 5 rapids. She told us what to expect, what our job was, and that she, as our guide, would get us safely through the challenge. We just needed to trust her. And we were off and rolling. In retrospect, I now realize that in our ordinary life, when we enter the unknown challenges, It's like rafting that river. We may not know what lies ahead of us, but our job is to pray and trust and have faith that we will be guided along the way. We are told by Dr. Holmes, if we know that God is for us, who can be against us? Therefore, there must come a trust so great that if ill winds blow, the only thing that is shaken is the external. So each and every day as we journey into the unknown, as we must remember that God is always for us. We need only trust and rely by using prayer to deepen our faith and grow our oneness with each other. The final verse and chorus of the river states, "There's bound to be rough waters. I know I'll take some falls, but with the good Lord as my captain, I can make it through them all. Yes, I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Like a bird upon the wind, these waters are my sky. I'll never reach my destination if I never try, so I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry." May your journey and the unknown be filled with faith, trust, and love, and may your river never run dry. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Well, thank you, Eileen. That was, the other side was wonderful.